So this is a crazy vlog to sit down and start to film. For a while now, Mike and I have been talking about someday moving to Massachusetts or to the East Coast, and honestly it's always been a point of discussion really for our entire relationship, so the past 5 or 6 years, and it was really just a matter of timings. You know, obviously ripping up our lives and moving across country takes a certain amount of the right timing. And earlier this year, when I lost my job on the 5th anniversary of starting that job, when in my interview I distinctly remember saying to the person who was going to be my boss, when he asked where do I want to be in 5 years, I said in Massachusetts, which hindsight not a great thing to say in an interview. But being laid off 5 years to the day, I kind of took that as a sign that this was the timing. I got the opportunity to find a job that let me be fully remote. That was a huge portion of my job hunt process. I knew I could find a job solely in Colorado, I could find a job solely in Massachusetts, or I can find a job that just let me work remotely indefinitely, so that the timing of this move, whenever it was going to occur, wasn't necessarily dependent on my job. So found a job that I absolutely love, and I get to work remote permanently. And so that took a little bit of the pressure off the timing. Then the whole thing was, what's Mike gonna do? So he's always wanted to go back to school and be a teacher. I think it's one of his big regrets that he didn't pursue it in college. And at like every turning point in his career so far, he's thought about going to teaching. But timing was never right. At what point do you uproot your current career and go back to school, take on more debt? There's like no right time. So again, when all this happened, when I got the job remotely, he felt timing was right for him as well. So it's been a bit of a process, obviously applying to school, and he still kind of needs to finish up applications for testing, because as far as testing goes, because he needs to take like the MTELs, which is like a teacher's licensing exam for his application. And we kind of had discussed that timing, like we would actually kick off the move once he got accepted, but seeing as he's applying to start in January, and if you really think about the timeline, so his test date's in later October, if he finds out how he did on the test in maybe a couple weeks later, so maybe even early mid-November, then let's call it 2 weeks after that, like you're almost at December as far as like when he could hear back on his application. And having to move across country in a month seems like a lot. So today we came to the decision that we're probably just gonna say go and start the moving process. So what that means is talking to our agent, having her list the house, obviously stage the house, take all the necessary pictures, and then hopefully the house goes under contract pretty quickly. As far as what I've seen in our neighborhood, houses are, like, knock on wood, but like going under contract, like they'll be on the market on Thursday or Friday and be under contract by Monday. So I really hope that's the case. And then, I mean, if you think about it, like the house will be on in 2 weeks, and then like that could mean like a December 1st closing date, just because the turn times are pretty long right now for mortgages to go through. So, you know, that would put us probably living at my dad's house for a month or two while we find a house that we really like, because we do want to buy again. We don't want to go back to renting. We love owning a house. So yeah, today is day 1 in probably a really long and difficult moving process. Like, I had worked this up in my head for so long because it was always a someday thing, and now that it's like a now thing, it feels a lot scarier and a lot more nerve-wracking than it has, just because it's like, oh shit, like now. So I was feeling super excited and super confident, and then all of a sudden today I'm like, oh my god. There's a lot of guilt and a lot of other feelings that are kind of going into this, but at the end of the day, I think this is something that's right for us, and it's a feeling that has been prevalent in our minds, again, like I said, for 5 or so years. So it's gonna be tough, but I'm really excited. And this is always a process I've known that like I've kind of wanted to document fully, because it's such a humongous life change, an exciting one, a scary one. So I wanted to document all of those feelings and everything and see kind of where this takes us. So one other thing that I actually wanted to touch on, and I had kind of mentioned it in my big explanation, was like the sign that this is the right time to move. I don't know why, but I feel like this year in particular, I have seen a lot of just signs in my life that have indicated that I'm doing the right thing, that I'm on the right path, and this is definitely no exception. And I feel like just because it's been such a big thing looming over me or us for the last couple months now, that it's brought me a lot of comfort that we've seen these signs, like I said. So the first of which being that I was laid off from my job on my 5-year anniversary. That was definitely the biggest one, and the one that gave me the most excitement to say like, all right, like let's go. One of the other ones, we had reached out to our real estate agent who had helped us find this house, and she's a family member. Maybe a month or so ago, when we were kind of like queuing her up and say, all right, like soon we're gonna want to move. We have this, so for some context, we have this big empty basement that we've really done nothing with. It's finished and it's pretty nice, but like again, we just haven't furnished it. So she is moving out of her house, and their new house won't be ready for a couple months now. And so they said that we can have a bunch of their furniture to stage our house so that it obviously like looks better in pictures, and like it was just going to be in storage otherwise. So that was another big one. Here, like the universe is saying, like, here, we're going to help prep your house. And it was obviously something extremely generous that she did for us, but not taking that in isolation, looking at it as the bigger picture. Like, I really think this was another one of the signs that this timing is right. One of the other things that happened, so obviously a bunch of states have travel restrictions, and so we couldn't fly back to Massachusetts and look at houses, or even just kind of go back and kind of make sure this is something we really want to do. And we had kind of been toying around with the idea of going out to Massachusetts for our birthday. Rewind back to last December, Mike had actually bought us Red Sox tickets for our birthday. He had since gotten them refunded, the game got canceled, so we had always kind of wanted to go out. Maybe at the beginning of September, Massachusetts lifted its travel restriction from Colorado. So basically, if you look at the whole United States, like in as far as like the states that Massachusetts allowed, every state was red. Massachusetts was white, New Hampshire was white, New York was white, and maybe like one other state, and every other state was red except for Colorado. And that was like, okay, like, you know, this is so perfect. Like, they lifted it on just our state, and so that's why we ended up making the trip. That's why we ended up making the trip out to Massachusetts. And while we were there, we looked at a bunch of towns that we thought we would like. I obviously grew up there, but as a high schooler, never really ventured to different towns, and I've never lived there as like an adult. So we wanted to make sure that the towns that I had been looking at were actually towns that we felt good about buying in, that we're interested in, like the feel and everything. So being able to do that, I think was huge, and definitely solidified for us that this is something that we want to move forward with. And there have been a couple that are like signs, maybe not associated with the move necessarily, that we've had throughout the year, or that I've had throughout the year, that have kind of just assured us that we're on the right path. So it's been a couple weeks since I last hopped on to give an update, and obviously if you're watching this, it'll just be a couple seconds, but it's been quite the last couple weeks. I think when I last checked in, Mike and I had just decided to list the house, and that whole process from saying we want to get it listed to actually being on the market took about a week and a half or so. We ended up listing the house last Thursday, and the week before that we had gone out of town for the weekend to Taos with Mike's family. We got back on Sunday. On Monday I left for the whole week for a work trip. And then when I got back on Friday morning, picked up and went to Mike's parents' house for the weekend so that we could have showings and open houses and stuff kind of all weekend and not have to worry about keeping the house clean and packing up the dogs each time and where we're going to go. So we just stayed with them, which was really nice to just hang out. It had been like a long week just being away from home. I'm definitely a homebody and took a lot out of me. So we ended up getting a couple offers and we went under contract on Monday. So today is now Thursday. So I've been under contract for a couple days. We had our house inspection yesterday and it came up on the inspection that our sewer line was cracked in like 10 spots, which I find so crazy because we bought the house a year ago, like a year and 3 months ago, and it was fine and we had it cleaned before we moved in. So that was a bit of a shock and we're still trying to figure out what we're going to do about that. So that wasn't ideal and definitely just did not take it well. I think I was just so exhausted from the week prior that I like totally went catatonic when I found out that we had to deal with that too. We do have a tentative closing date set for the contract that we're currently under, so that'll be November 30th. And so the current plan is to get all our stuff moved out the Tuesday before Thanksgiving and then live with Mike's parents for kind of that, or stay with Mike's parents for that whole Thanksgiving week, and then drive out to Massachusetts that Saturday, taking like 2 or 3 days for the trip, just because it'll be a kind of like a winter time and there'll probably be snow on the road, and so just kind of want to plan for a slower trip if we can. So yeah, I think that's everything. Oh, we also, so rewinding a bit, and I think adding to the whole stress of last week and just why I did not take the inspection drama well. When Mike was driving me to the airport last Monday, we got in a car accident. We had stopped because of some construction, and the car coming behind us did not stop, pushed us into the car in front of us, and so now our car is in the shop, and it'll probably take a couple weeks because it was pretty bad on both the front and the back. We're both fine, like the airbags didn't go off. We were both kind of just sore last Monday night and the day after, but everything's fine. Just again, not really something wanted to deal with at the moment. So I think that's all kind of caught up for now, and I don't know when I'm gonna post all of these. I kind of want to be a little bit further along in the whole process and have a bit more of the inspection stuff behind us. Hey bud. Yeah, oh, and another thing that had just made last weekend so stressful was we have the Ring doorbell, like the video doorbell, and watching people come in and out of our house and knowing that people were judging our house, where like we love our house so much, like we would move this house to Massachusetts if that was an option, but unfortunately it's not. And it is a bit of a bummer because like we're not finding many houses that we like in Mass at the moment. There'll be 1 or 2 occasionally that we really like, and they'll either go under contract immediately, or there's like something like in the kind of the fine print of the notes about the house that kind of just turns us off, is not something we want to deal with, or is like troublesome or whatever. So it's been hard 2 weeks or so, and really hoping everything kind of starts to fall into place a little bit more over the near term. But yeah, we're still super excited for the move. The dogs have no idea, so we have no idea how to break it to them. But yeah, I'll keep you guys updated all throughout this process. So it's now Sunday the 25th of October, and we're about just under a month from when we're going to officially be moving out. And I've been kind of teetering with if I want to wait to post a video like starting to talk about the move until things are a little bit further along. But I figure if the idea of like a lot of the content I'm gonna be posting on my channel is just gonna be real and relatable and not necessarily like put together or like have some huge announcement, not like anyone is necessarily watching, but yeah, just to be like real and open, I figure I want to share early on with this process, as early on in this process as I can. So I am going to be posting all this video so that people can kind of watch and kind of come with me as I experience all these emotions and experience like all the ups and downs of moving. So yeah, stay tuned.